Well, this will be a rather long video, but owners of roughly 2005 to 2008 Audi A4 convertibles who have struggled with keeping the convertible tops working will hopefully find this useful. After a good deal of trial and error and consultation and parts replacements, my top is at last working like new for now. Hopefully this won't jinx things. And please, I make no guarantee that any of this will work for you. Anyway, I didn't take any actual video of the work I did since recording is a distraction and I needed to pay close attention to what I was doing. However, I have a good deal of still shots that I can string together to tell the story and a lot to say about the last bit, which is replacing the left side cover latch. There were three general problems with the top. First was the position switch, seen right here on the right side, and it's an easy replace. If you have had to use the reset procedure, try replacing this. A single screw and one connector and about $100. My top worked very erratically, and it truly felt like an electrical issue, since when it did go up and down, it did so without a hitch. The hydraulics certainly seemed to be working. So I took a chance on this $400 motor and the gear you see here. My dealer wanted to replace everything you see for thousands of dollars. For the record, this is perfectly understandable because if they don't get it right the first time, they end up with an unhappy customer and likely paying the freight. There are only two screws and one connector. Leave the oil reservoir pointed down and you won't need any oil. I found great resources online that helped me with getting at the pump, which is in the right rear wheel well, so I won't replicate that here. Finally, the top stopped latching and unlatching. Once I did this manually, the top would open or close easily, but not latch. The problem centered on this latch for the top's cover that is on the left-hand side. There's a micro switch inside as shown, and it comes with the latch. No one at two dealers actually knew this, and since both the right and left latches are the same price, and the switch is not shown in the parts illustrations, it was not immediately obvious that a new latch would include the switch. It does. And here's the issue. Looking at the old latch, note this trigger. Now looking inside the new one. The trigger is a good ½ inch longer. The old one is either broken or more likely worn off from repeated contact with the catch on the top's cover. So here is how I replaced it. There are 3 bolts behind this trim. A single trim connector needs to be removed. Also remove the C-clip that holds the latch rod in place. I had a towel down to keep small parts from falling into the trunk. It can't be opened while the top is open. And that's a yardstick keeping the top in place. Once the bolts are removed, the latch is removed through the opening shown, starting with the connector end and rotating it upside down to get the rubber top through the widest part of the opening. Now note that the wire from the micro switch extends down nearly 2 feet into the body of the car and needs to be disconnected. Getting at the connector was either going to involve removing a lot of interior parts or reaching in. My skinny ass arm was able to get in far enough to touch the top of the connector, but I couldn't get my opposed thumb down to grip and release it. I was prepared to cut and splice wires, but it turns out they are both black, and it may need to have been done twice to get it right, and it wasn't my favorite idea anyway. So I did a bit of innovating. The wire is connected to the body in 2 places. I was able to reach into the gap near the bottom and release that one, but I had to pry away the top one. Once this was done, I could work on releasing the wire connector. I first cut the wire as near to the old switch as possible. Then I put some upward pressure on the wire and held that pressure by clamping the wire to the body with vice grips. I used a bit of plastic to protect the interior trim. Then I improvised two long tools that I could use to press the two release levers shown, one on each side. I had an 18-inch drill bit extension and a disassembled selfie stick that I telescoped out. Pressing one to either side, the connector released and I was able to pull it away. The wire on the new one was stiff enough that I was able to lower it into the female end of the connector. And I was able to get my skinny-ass arm down deep enough to push the connector fully into place. Now it's time to be very, very careful. While trying to improvise a fix of the old switch, I put pressure on the wiring and pulled the connection apart at the switch. Be very careful not to put pressure on the wires while installing the latch. It goes in opposite the way it came out. The rubber top in first upside down and rotating the latch to get the lever in last with the latch now pointing up. This is where pressure may get applied to the wiring. Again, be careful and be patient. Once in, start the 3 bolts and connect the rod to be sure the install is lined up correctly. Then, tighten the bolts. Once I had everything closed up and the tools put away, the top worked great, and it has since. That's it. For more helpful videos generally covering push-button start issues and warning lights, check out our channel here on YouTube or go to DashboardSymbols.com.